Hello, welcome to Melanin and Habinoid Life. I am Lady Abimbola. Welcome to my podcast. Well, as you all know, I have been a strong spokesperson and activist against the gang stalking program, the racist system, and the abuse of the fundamental human rights. And once in a while, I go around the globe to tell different stories about the gang stalking program and the racist system, how it's actually affecting the world globally. The gang stalking program is a program that actually was well used by Adolf Hitler to put in check the Jews and how they were easily captured and thrown into the gas chamber. Of course, that was his end result. And it has, though Adolf is dead, though Hitler is dead today, but the gang stalking program is still widely used. It's used against presidents, it's used against candidates, it's used against individuals that are seen as a non-conformist to the new global terrorism. Well, the situation right now, I spoke about my own personal experiences here in Europe, where I live in Italy, to be precise. And there have been certain situations in my home country, Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where one Mr. Omoyele Showore, who was actually and who is a human rights activist, is a pro-democracy campaigner, is also a former presidential candidate, and also the founder on the online podcast or journalist channel called the Sahara Reporter. Mr. Omoyele Showore, who is actually has his family based in the United States of America, is schooled at the University of Lagos. He also did his PhD, I believe, or his master's at the university in Canada. Mr. Showore came back home to Nigeria, like most of us will desire, to restore his country and to restore back the lost glory of his country. During the presidential candidate, they looked down. Mr. Showore is just about a year or two younger than myself. I'm 48 years old. But age is just a number. Politics is not just because of age, because what has the old politician done till now? Only to put us in debt and to disgrace our nation, our honorable nation. Well, Mr. Showore tried his very best, a candidate, and he tried to express to Nigerians what it's all about. Of course, we all know that bad politics is what actually works all over the world. Just like what is happening to America right now, the impeachment of the president of America. He was actually diplomatically elected. Donald Trump was diplomatically elected president of America, and I believe also appointed by Almighty God. But of course, whatever he's doing that is contrary to the desires of the evil ones, of course, is making them panicky, and they want him out of the way. Of course, with the fear that he's so loved, even though they campaign negativity, so much negativity against him, they criticize him a lot, they release propaganda, all kind of fake news against him. But the man is so determined, and that's, I believe, the reason God appointed him, because God actually loves people that will not crack or break down, even though under so much oppression. Well, I commend Donald Trump for that. And the same, I'm not talking about Donald Trump now, because if you want to see one or two videos I did on Donald Trump, you can go through my channel, you will see the videos. But right now, I'm going back to the cancer in my own country. Omoyele Showore, this activist, during the presidential election that he contested for, they were attacking him. They pulled down his posters. They harassed even Nigerians that came from abroad, from America, from Canada, from Europe, from UK, from France, from all over the place, Australia, all over the place, to vote to make sure that this perfectly orchestrated or divinely planned candidate is put into power. But to the shock of most of us Nigerians, we still have back the whole politician. Well, I'm not against anybody. I'm not trying to attack anybody. That's not my mission. That I am just a very proud African woman, a Nigerian to be precise. I live in the United Europe of gang stalkers. We are being treated like 10th class citizens. Abuse of the fundamental human rights. Our hard-earned properties being stolen. Most of the people over here, they've turned them to spies against each other. They've turned them to all kinds of things. Those of us that is still holding on to integrity and dignity is being constantly persecuted, oppressed, and bullied on a daily basis. Well, the reason, I'm doing this particular blog is not just to talk about Omoyele Sowore, whom I believe is a perfect candidate for Nigerian presidential seat in Aso Rock. Because I believe Africans are so used to these so-called dictators that all they do is take election and they begin to enrich themselves. We have a 70-something-year-old president. I'm not saying age is anything because 77, there are 77-year-old people that are still, working hard and doing things. But when you find somebody in a position of power that he has not been doing anything, the only thing they have been doing is to put Nigeria in debt. Nigeria now, worldwide, is actually in an $81 billion debt. $81 billion debt. When do you think they want to pay this money? How do you think they can pay this money? Let me tell you something, fellow Nigerians, that every debt taken, there's always a collateral. Nobody will give you something without assuring that their debt will be paid, or whatever they're borrowing you will be paid. They borrow you money, and they actually have planned a collateral in case you're unable to pay back. What is the guarantee Buhari, the current president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who we have not seen anything tangible he has done? The parliament, the Senate, accepted his request to borrow billions of dollars from the Chinese government. For crying out loud, Chinese don't have anybody's interest at heart except their own. They're actually spreading themselves all over the world because they have only one desire: a global domination. Chinese want to rule the world, and based on their characteristics, their personality, and the way they do business, you know that Chinese people actually do business with themselves. It's not like we blacks were scattered against ourselves. A black will open a company now. They don't want to employ any black person. Well, I don't blame them in a way because, anything that causes any situation for me here in Europe is also always when I try to help my own people. So I've learned, I'm very, very, careful how I mingle with traitors, how I mingle with spies, how I mingle with sellovers, how I mingle with people that just starving, they're frustrated. Anybody can buy them over and they will stab you at the back without thinking twice. I'm careful. I study everybody according to knowledge. And when I see certain people a certain way, I begin to know how to manage myself around such a person. This is a traitor. This person is a traitor. This person can be bought easily. This person already he has a wicked and a devilish heart. So I know how to identify people and I treat them accordingly. There are people I don't even want close to me, and if I find certain people, they're getting too close to me, and it's too close for comfort, and I feel they don't have a good spirit or a good heart, whatever, the reason they're around me is for their own Svengali motive, I begin to avoid them and keep them at arm's length. I don't even waste time about that any longer. Now, going back to Nigeria and China, the situation right now is that Chinese government borrowed Nigeria billions of dollars in loan, with the excuse to build a railroad. Please, could somebody explain to me, in case it's me not getting it, because I live here in Europe, maybe it's me not getting it. Can somebody please explain to me how a 70-something-year-old president that We don't want him to be to even try to to campaign again for another tenure. People can't wait to get him out of there. How do you expect him to pay back? Let's even forget the $81 billion that is already down. Let's talk about the few billions he borrowed from China. And we all know Chinese will sign a solid rock contract as a collateral. Now, if you don't believe me and you don't understand what I'm trying to say, I will just give you an example of some African countries that owes China and how China has taken over their country. Nigeria is trending on a very dangerous ground. We were colonized by the British. They were so upset they did not discover petroleum and all these natural resources before we got our independence in 1960. But somehow they still try every way possible to, not just the British, all over the world, they still try every way possible to swindle us of our natural resources to build their own country. The same country we come to, they deny us of work, they sabotage us from making wealth, they discriminate us, they persecute us, they oppress us, they humiliate us, they criminalize us, they destroy our integrity and dignity and place us in a class with bad reputation. They're just sending one message. Though we stole this money from your country, but dare you try to even make money in this country to take back to your country. So therefore, they have the racist system programmed against us, which means to keep us in a level of poverty. And those of us that work so hard and break the chains of limitation and achieve a beautiful height. I had a villa, but right now I'm staying in a residence. Right now I'm staying in a residence. I talk about my own personal experiences on my blog, so you can look. I mean, you can look at my blog to know some things about that. So I don't want to mix every story together. I'm talking about the danger of borrowing from the Chinese government. The money was just borrowed some few months ago, and I believe if Nigeria was actually wise, they should return the billions of dollars they took from the Chinese government before they sell Nigeria to the Chinese government. Because once we sell that country, we are not necessarily saying, oh, we put our country for sale, but whatever transaction you do, the Chinese will fight you to the last. Chinese don't give, I used to watch some African movies, and they deal with, all these Chinese people, their hand is like with super glue. They don't give anything, because actually, most of them, they walk through their nose. The ones that have factory, just few people of them are rich. Just few. Majority of the Chinese, they are just like slaves. They have the very rich Chinese and the slaves. The slaves are the ones that make the money for the rich one. Any money Chinese borrows is only to enslave such a nation. Why can't they borrow American money? Why can't they borrow Australians' money? Why can't they borrow United Kingdom money? They only borrow the fools that refuse to look at what they have. We have so much natural resources to be world power. Nigeria is supposed to be among the world power in the world. I don't know if it's laziness, if it's just stupidity, I don't know. But the way we're fighting for this Omoyele situation, Omoyele Sowore situation, I believe Omoyele, I stand for Omoyele to be the president. Apart from being eloquent, that is educated, he knows how to manage so many things. He's the one that brought this hashtag bring our girls back. Who knows about any girl that was abducted in Nigeria? I didn't know anything about that until the hashtag bring back our girls. Who brought that into the limelight? It was Omoyele with his Sahara, which is online Sahara reporter channel. Now, I will show you some videos as the Chinese manipulate people. They bring cash. They don't even do bank transfer. Because I believe also that psychological torture for the person they're trying to present the money. Because when we talk about, oh, I'm going to give you $1 million, you can still be thinking about it. But when you see $1 million in front of you, it's another story. So they are playing their game very, very well. And Africans are just, we have gold, we have silver, we have petroleum, we have cacao, we have ivory, we have everything to become world powers, to become so rich. But we end up giving fools, external bodies, to steal these natural resources away from us. We give them for peanuts, and they make billions out of it. They make billions out of it. Now, I will show you some video concerning the Chinese cunning way of penetrating economics. And believe me, they don't have good intention for Nigeria. Watch this with me.
So the Chinese would be hoping Vanuatu couldn't keep up with the debt repayments.
Look, I don't think the Chinese are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're not investing in Vanuatu to help the Vanuatu people. They're investing in Vanuatu to help themselves.
Captain Jim Fennell was the intelligence chief of the US Navy's Pacific Fleet, watching China's moves there on a daily basis. Now he's warning Pacific nations swaying to China's influence to beware.
China has told all these Pacific countries that it just wants to be their partner. It wants to be involved economically. Do you not believe them?
Well, we have evidence that shows that when they say they want to be your economic partner, the end result is they become your economic master.
China demands no country in its diplomatic sphere can recognize Taiwan. And there's no doubt the communist superpower has a grand strategic plan in the Pacific, extending its alliances further and further south. And with those alliances, massive infrastructure, like this gigantic wharf in Vanuatu that the country doesn't need, but could dock an aircraft carrier. With recent back-to-back recognition of China by the Solomon Islands and Kiribati, and possibly the soon-to-be independent Bougainville, we asked Jim Fennell to join us on a Pacific mission to report on China's intentions.
They're interested in this area because it's essentially the lifeline or the choke point between America and Australia and New Zealand. China has built the Navy that people said they were never going to build. China has deployed their fleet to places they said they were never going to deploy. They believe that they're supposed to be the rightful leaders of this new global order. You know, the British century, the American century, now we're going to have the Chinese century. That's their vision.
In September, Manasseh Sogavare, Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, announced his country was ditching recognition of Taiwan,
chosen to be on the right side of history,
for communist China. A move Deputy Opposition Leader Peter Kenalira says was more a dash for cash than considered diplomacy.
Are you happy that your country has switched allegiances from a democracy to a communist state?
For me personally, I'm not. We should have taken our time and not be dictated and marching to the beat of a more dominant country. Is really China first, not Solomon's first.
And here in the Solomons, we found direct evidence that China's influence could have a sinister side.
So they rang you and said, we've got $1 million for you if you come to the hotel and accept the switch to China.
Yes.
Daniel Sudani is the premier of the Solomons' largest island, Malaita. He says he was offered a $1 million bribe to back his country's switch to China.
You're suggesting that there are a lot of corrupt politicians.
So the Chinese would be hoping Vanuatu couldn't keep up with the debt repayments.
Look, I don't think the Chinese are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're not investing in Vanuatu to help the Vanuatu people. they're investing in Vanuatu to help themselves.
An immense deal is announced for Chinese control of the country's only gold mine, high above Honiara. This is the Gold Ridge Mine. It's an old gold mine that's been resurrected in the first major deal the Solomon Islands has done with China since it switched allegiances to the communist country. Incredibly, China describes the $825 million purchase and all the infrastructure it intends to build here as an early harvest. And if you need evidence of advanced Chinese planning, we're told by a mine insider that the security guards' uniforms, complete with Communist China's flag, were ordered 6 months ago, even though the diplomatic recognition that opened the way to this deal was only 2 months ago. The Chinese will not only reap the direct profits from this gold mine, but everything they build to service it, roads, railways, and port facilities, will remain in China's hands forever. That is truly enormous.
One of the biggest man-made pits in the world.
It's estimated Panguna still holds nearly $60 billion worth of gold and copper. So that's what the war was all about? And the future here too, I guess.
Yeah. This is the mine that triggered the war and may well be key to the future of Bougainville.
It's an eerie place, a frozen moment of the aftermath of war.
Come cheap. But China has let Vanuatu put the $114 million it costs on their tab, which currently stands at $220 million.
Is this a debt trap?
Yes.
So the Chinese would be hoping Vanuatu couldn't keep up with the debt repayments.
Look, I don't think the Chinese are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're not investing in Vanuatu to help the Vanuatu people. They're investing in Vanuatu to help themselves.
This doesn't only happen in the South Pacific. China has form when it comes to debt trap diplomacy. The impoverished African nation of Djibouti owes them a staggering $1.2 billion. And China has used part of that debt to create a fully fledged naval base there. And last year, Sri Lanka defaulted on a massive Chinese loan for a port that many believe it didn't need in the first place. China now owns the port on a 99-year lease.
What do you think of the type of businesses that the Chinese government is investing in here, or the projects?
All the projects, they are too big for our country.
Now, welcome back. Now, as you can see, they don't have any good intention for any African country. The money the Chinese government borrows any African nation, it is only to entrap you. They are not coming like the British, like the Americans, like the Europeans, and they just come, they bribe, bribing and corruption. They bribe your presidents and they sign some contract with them, and they take away some petroleum, whatever natural resources we have that they want. The Chinese don't operate like this. The Chinese want everything. Every country that is unable to pay back Chinese debt is in for trouble. The Chinese will take over such country, and we don't know the collateral. Buhari, the present president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as of 2019, we do not know the collateral he gave to borrow billions of dollars from the Chinese government to build a railroad, to build airport. I'm not even saying anything in the airport, in the railroad, or whatever. Why do you need to build money? For what? All the contracts being given to all these greedy contractors, you can use it to restore our airport. Airport here, we know, it's the first place anybody sees when they come from outside to see the kind of country we have. Railroad, I don't believe that's what Nigeria needs right now. And even if we want railroad, we have Nigerians now building cars. Why can't you patronize your own local, the students that engineer students that are just coming up, they're building things. Why don't you patronize your own people? Why? Please just look at this. What Vladimir Putin, the Russian government, said about the Africans. Then I'll be back with you. Now, Putin has said it all. It's very interesting to see that we don't see our own foolishness and the way these whole politicians are dragging us like a piece of idiots all over the world, all over the globe. Let me tell you something. As a very proud African woman, a very proud Nigerian, I defend my territory. I defend the dignity of my race anywhere I go. And that's why you can see everything about me is natural. Africa is filled with natural resources. Switzerland don't have nothing. What do they have? Swiss watch. Okay, they manufacture that. They need money to buy all the components to manufacture that. We're talking about natural resources. What do Switzerland have? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But they have enriched themselves, getting out of trouble in the sense that they're not fighting wars with anybody, and they're convincing everybody to keep their money with them and nothing. No Interpol or whatever will touch their money. That's how Switzerland has made their money. Talk about the European countries. Talk about every other country that has held Africans as a slave. Every continent that has held Africa as a slave. How did they make their wealth? They've made their wealth through Africans' petroleum, African ivories, Africans' gold, silver, diamonds, the blood diamonds in Liberia, in Libya. But still yet, Africans don't get it. You have your children, you have your youths risking their lives through Libya and go through the sea. They go through the sea to get to Europe, all in the name of trying to escape poverty. A land flowing with milk and honey. People running out. They're not running out from poverty. They're actually running out from the stupidity of the population. To say the honest truth, I as a person, I believe we should flush out every old politician. None of them means good for that country. They're just there to enrich themselves. If we have a federal, a national emergency, your president will not have time to be getting married to a girl old enough to be his great-grandchild. If we have so much urgency with money, he wouldn't have time for marriage. It's because he has so much time on his hands and so much money to spend. If they have an headache, they're going to England, they're going to America, they're going to European countries. But with 500 million or 1 billion, we can build a beautiful hospital, an international level hospital in Nigeria, where we can also encourage our doctors to fulfill their professional desires instead of them running out of the country. We can build railroads with our youths, the engineers coming out, graduating and just roaming around. We can start building infrastructure buildings with all our young architects and even the old ones and give them the opportunity. And give them the opportunity. So their CV can be filled with something reasonable. But instead, you continue to help nations that don't give a damn about us. Most of us that are in Europe today, in America, ask. I studied information technology. I speak 6 international languages. I paint, I draw, I sew, I do so many things. I excelled until I was attacked by the authorities. I have never committed crime before in my life. I have never associated myself with people that commit crime. If I am with somebody, I'm around people that commit crime, and because I don't know. But the day I will find out that they are committing any crime or whatever, I push them away immediately without thinking twice. But unfortunately, your youths are wasting away abroad. The natural resources we're supposed to use to restore our land, you're giving it out to people. You are colonized by the British, Americans, Europeans, Australians. Everybody colonized you. Now you have gone to actually hand yourself over to the Chinese. Let me tell you something. You just handed yourself over to the devil himself. If Nigerian journalists are hearing this blog, please, you can forward this video. Let Nigerian Parliament, Senate, and every governmental institution that can actually get hold of the president to return back the billions he borrowed from the Chinese government. He doesn't have any intention of paying it back at 70-something years old, and his tenure is over. Nobody wants him there again. It is something, he has already created problem for the next presidency. Return back the money before they share it as a national cake. For years, you've been talking about national cake. To become a president is not going there to steal money. You can enrich yourself if you're wise. Give contract to your family member, but don't be stupid about it. And stop patronizing international bodies. Here in Europe, they discourage investment in Africa. But they come to Africa to steal from us, but they discourage people investing in Africa. But you're so dumb in Africa, you don't understand anything. They come to steal from you regularly, but they tell their own investors not to invest in Africa. So they intend to ruin that continent, just to take and take and take. Nobody should come back and invest. Please be wise. Be wise. This Chinese loan is the biggest mistake Nigeria will ever make. You still have time to return the money, and if they started dividing the money already, please return the billions you collected from the Chinese government. Chinese government will take over Nigeria. You don't know the collateral Buhari have signed with the Chinese government. They will take over, and if Chinese take, and you just saw the video I showed you now. If they take over Nigeria, then just forget it. Enough is enough. Some of us are so disgusted. And we're so sad. I'm a proud African woman. I have never, ever been in a position where I cannot defend my territory. So many people went to school here. Because of this shameful act, they begin to behave like the whites over here. Out of ignorance, they don't even know they are even making themselves to be more foolish by trying to be nationals you're not. But I have always upheld the dignity of my continent and my race as a melanin woman. Well, I just feel I should tell my fellow Nigerians this. It is very important we return back the Chinese money. Chinese don't have our good in heart. They're after only taking over territory. And Africa has been their target for a very long time. And they've been penetrating with wealth. All the glitters is not gold. I, as a person, am in support for somebody like Omoyele Sowore to become the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please, Nigerians should wake up and start voting for the same people. When you continue to vote for the same hold nonchalant, uninteresting, unactive, they're not even internationally oriented. I saw the president the other day with Donald Trump. Hey, oh, I'm here. To thank Donald Trump for helping out Nigeria to train our police. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You cannot even train your own police. So tomorrow, if America intends to wage a war against Nigeria, they will just squash us because they train your police, they train your military. What is happening to the black continent? Who has bewitched the black continent? I know there have been a system orchestrated against us, and they even use us against ourselves. I know that. I live it every day here. I'm careful about the albino race, but even the melanin people here, they are more dangerous than the albino at times. I play with everybody, but I'm careful about everybody. But the ones I see that they are traitors or they have bought over to sidetrack me, I will deal with that person before pushing that person away from me. I know that. But enough is enough. Oh, this albino, they did this albino, they took us as slaves. Yes, it's a fact. And they established a system to keep us in a slave-like environment and mentality. They can do all they want to us in their own continent. I lived from a villa of 150 meters square to living in a residence. But still yet, they want to make a fool out of my enemy's life and not mine. By sabotaging my work, by stealing my property, manipulating justice so I cannot get justice. These people are ruthlessly wicked, heartless, and evil. But what is happening back home? We have the Nigerians. You're suffering, there's exploitation, there's corruption, there's all kinds of things happening. When armed robbery or whatever is on the increase, it's on the increase because people are starving, because people are hungry, because people can't find a way out. Omoyele Sowore declared revolution. Revolution is not to destabilize the country. Revolution is to pass a message to the presidency. This is what we want. It is not you that call the shots or tell us when we want freedom for what we want. We give you an ultimatum. That's what revolution is about. The revolution is actually declaring. It has common sense. It's an activist. Activists sometimes, they act as if they're crazy people. They're out of this world. But they're focused. They're determined. There's no persecution or pressure. Everything will come with what they're doing. But I respect activists more than people that are just pretenders. They slammed him all over the place. They even pinned him up in court. They slammed him all over the place. They harassed him. They beat him up. They do all kinds of things to him. But he's still focused. That's the kind of president I want. A president that cannot be pushed around. Not the ones that go, yeah, that is why I'm thanking him. I mean, you cannot even have a person of that. I'm a very proud African woman. Sometimes I go to places that whenever I just enter, they zero me out immediately. You see the blacks, whenever there's something, they'll just keep quiet. They can even be killing you in front of another black. They'll just be watching. They're afraid to talk. They're afraid to fight back. They've ridiculed them, they've reproached them, they've destroyed them so much psychologically that they can't even fight back. So somebody like me that still fights back, it's an issue. Nigeria, to give it a thought, Omoyele Sowore is an human rights activist. He's a pro-democracy campaigner. And he has done so much more than what your governmental officials can ever think of doing. He has single-handedly, with his Sahara reporter journalism wealth, to give people scholarship because he knows the value of education. But your government is busy borrowing money that they would enrich themselves with, putting us in debt that they will never pay. Aisha Buhari, or whatever the daughter is called, was actually requesting to harass Nigerians. It's just like they want to make it now. Maybe the Chinese people even taught the Buhari government that tactics. If anybody fights against the government, you get them arrested. While his children, they are globe-trotting with our money. A word is enough for the wise. The $1 billion borrowed from the Chinese government must be returned immediately. Chinese will take over Nigeria if care is not taken. That is all for now. As I always say at the end of my blog, the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So, as I always say, face your fears, elevate your mind, and resist every temptation to panic. I'll see you on my next blog. Thank you. I'm Lady Abimbola. Bye.